In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to work this squishy, stretchy, bouncy fisherman's rib stitch. And we're going to be working it flat today. The way you work this stitch in the round is quite different, and I have a separate video for that one. So we need to cast on a uneven number of stitches. So for the my Maybury cardigan, which is a fisherman's rib, the gauge is 17 stitches. So if I was casting on the swatch for that, I would cast on 21 odd stitches, just because I always like to cast on a few more than is required to reach your 4-inch 10 centimetre gauge, just because then I find it's easier to measure. However, for the sake of this video, I'm going to be using much chunkier yarn and needles so that you can see a little bit more clearly what I'm doing, hopefully. And so I've cast on 11 stitches, but yeah, whatever you're doing, it always needs to be an odd number. So for fisherman's rib, there are just 2 rows that you're going to repeat, but there's one setup row that we need to do first before we can crack on with those, and that is simply a knit 1, purl 1 rib. So I'm going to start with knit 1 and end with a knit 1 and just do that rib stitch all the way across this row. So this is just completely regular knitting and purling. So now I've worked my knit 1, purl 1 setup row, I'm going to begin on row 1 of our 2-row repeat for the fisherman's rib. And it's basically a rib to all intents and purposes. The only thing that we're going to do different is the knit stitches. So all the purl stitches are just worked as a regular purl. So I'm going to start with one of those. So I'm going to purl this first stitch. And then when we get to the knit stitch, instead of knitting it normally like this, we are going to be going into this stitch below and doing a knit 1 below. After you've put the needle through that stitch from front to back, you're doing the rest of the stitch as if it was just a normal knit. So everything else is just as a normal knit would be. And then bring yarn to the front to do your purl. And then take yarn back, and you're just going to do that same thing again. So instead of going into here, we're going into the stitch below the live stitch on your needle. And I'm just going to repeat that all the way to the end. And we'll be ending this row with a purl 1. So we've now completed that first row. On the second row, we are essentially going to be doing exactly the same thing, but we've got a knit stitch to begin with and a knit stitch to end with. And on the previous row, we began and ended with a purl. Because these are the very end, we're just going to knit those ones normally and then begin that same repeat again. So we're just going to knit that first stitch and then purl all the purl stitches as normal, and then do all the knit stitches as the knit 1 below. And then that last stitch we're going to knit as normal. And then we will just repeat those 2 rows over and over again for as long as we want. You might find when you first start doing fisherman's rib that it looks a bit funny until you've knit quite a few rows, maybe 4 rows, and then you can really start seeing how the stitch looks. Until that point it can look a little bit lumpy and bumpy, but it's such a beautiful stitch. Hope this was helpful. See you soon.